Hello and welcome to the Unlucky Frog Gaming Podcast. You are joined by your two usual hosts here. We've got Mr. Tom Mannering.
Hello.
And myself, Josh Hartley. How are we doing this week, Tom?
I am doing alright this week, Josh. How are you?
Yes, I'm not bad. No, I'm a bit brain dead to tell the truth. I've got you slagged me off for when I said this the last time, but it's true. Like, I'm moving house and work's really busy at the moment, so I've got a lot on. All right, so
I wasn't slagging off you. I was referencing the first world problems that you have in that you're going for an interview for a promotion and moving to a nice new house. You know, all these incredibly positive things that you're like.
They are, but it's still knackering.
I know, and I'm not diminishing that. It just made me chuckle a little bit because life is so hard.
It is. It's yes.
As I progress along the journey, such as my trials and tribulations.
Yeah. So I'm a bit like, just there. is what's going on in my head at the moment. But I'm good. Like, I'm looking forward to getting these things done.
Yeah.
And like out of the way, and then I can relax for a bit. And I've got all the next week off just to get myself sorted in my new place. So yeah. It's kind of surreal that it's finally happening.
Is it a house you're getting now, right?
Yeah. So it's a terraced house in Carlisle that I've got. Guys who are not familiar with Carlisle or the north of England, picture Coronation Street. It looks like that.
Slightly less drama. Slightly less.
Considerably less drama, I hope.
No, slightly less.
Great.
Carlisle is a weird place. I'm going to get off topic, right? But
yeah,
Carlisle is a weird place.
We never even got on topic, so you're fine.
I know, right? Yeah. So it's fine. We're not even on to the body of the podcast, which will probably be off topic as well.
Yes.
So when I lived in Carlisle is a very interesting place to live because it's very big. Like, it's not a small town, right? Carlisle is quite big because it covers a lot of area mass, right? It's got a lot of land that makes up Carlisle. So there are elements of it that feel semi like city like a very small city or a very large town, right? But it's got a very small town mentality, like,
yes,
which is really, really surreal. So when I moved to Carlisle, I moved to Carlisle to work at Games Workshop, for anyone who doesn't know this. And when I got there, within about 2 weeks of having got there, people were coming into like the shop and being like, "Oh, you're Tom, you're the new guy," and I'm like, how do you know who I am? Like, I have been in this place for 2 weeks. I've met maybe like half a dozen people for longer than like a few minute interaction in the shop, and already strangers know my name. And like, it's very weird about Carlisle. And I've lived in a small town, I've lived in a city, I've lived in things between, but Carlisle has this very rumor mill type, like very close knit vibe to it.
It is, yeah. It's a funny thing because it's in Carlisle, everyone knows everyone. Like, it's like, you know, the 6 degrees of like Kevin Bacon is probably more like the 3 degrees of any person in Carlisle.
Yeah, and like I would know gossip about people I'd never met. You know, like so and so's doing such and such with so and so, and I'm like, I don't know this person. Why am I privy to this information? So when you say it's like Coronation Street, to me it did feel a little bit like that. That, you know, you had all this kind of tertiary drama that would kind of eke into your life, and everyone would know everyone else's business, and it was because it's a lot of I think because Carlisle is a lot of landmass, but it's all very centralized. Like the town itself is quite small.
The town centre's tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like especially pre-COVID, you know, everyone would come into town and that. So word would get around quickly. So there you go. That's my take on
that. That was Tom's TED talk on,
yeah.
on life in Carlisle.
It's very surreal, very strange.
I like it because I have my family are around there for a start, and a lot.
You're just a small town girl.
I nearly sang, but I repressed that fear. Could you see that sort of glint in my eye, just about to go into Journey?
Yep. Yep. I could see it was just sort of you were holding yourself back. There was some restraint at work there.
Yeah. But like I've got I know a lot of people around there as well, because I lived in Carlisle, and you get to know everyone, and so it's like the past couple of months while I've been living with my brother, it's been nice like touching base again with everyone and catching up, seeing how everyone's doing. And I've got a lot of friends that are in a stone's throw from my new house is in a part of Carlisle called Denton Home, which is like just like a 5-minute walk from the city centre. And there's a really cool. I say really cool. It's a small little indie bar called The Source in Denton Home. It's actually in an old. They call it, the building's called the Atlas Works. It's an old fabric mill, basically, which has all been split into different businesses. And that in itself is an interesting thing, because you have the Source, which is like a bar and a gig spot right at the top. You've got a soft play area. You've got a hairdressers. There's also a business that just describes itself as a fight club, and a really dodgy sauna. So
you've got pretty much everything there. You never need to leave.
Covers all bases. But yes, soon I will be moving in. But
straight
until
off
then,
to that sauna when you get there.
No.
Should we talk about some board game, at least adjacent stuff?
Yes. Yeah, that sounds like a good plan. We were trying to look for any news to talk about, and we've got a new D&D book coming out.
Yeah, so a couple of bits have been going on in the D&D community. So we're recording this on Monday, so we're actually recording this very early in the week for us because of Josh moving. So tomorrow, on Tuesday, a new book will be releasing for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, Fizban's Treasury of Dragons. So this is a book, unsurprisingly by the name, about dragons. So it tells you more about the draconic gods. They're reintroducing the gem dragons into 5th edition. There's some new draconic themed character things. So you've got some new ancestries for Dragonborn, some dragon themed subclasses for monks and rangers, loads of stuff for DMs for obviously like running your dragon centric adventures, including like new layers and things, and bit more sort of draconic beastery as well. So this isn't like a big name release. It's not going to be one of the big ones, but it's an interesting one because in every edition of D&D that I've played, there's always been some sort of Book of Dragons. Because they're in the name, Dungeons and Dragons, so they are a big part of it. So I'm interested in seeing what this is going to be like. I'll be picking it up because I've picked up all the source books for D&D 5th edition, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going on in there. So that comes out tomorrow, so it'll be out by the time this episode goes live. So you can pick that up if you're into it. Other D&D centric news, Critical Role started their season 3 on Thursday just gone, which will be 2 Thursdays ago when this drops, and that's seen some mixed reactions from the fans, generally positive. I haven't watched it myself yet. I will be catching up with it probably tomorrow, but it's always interesting. I remember this when they went from season 1 from Vox Machina, and I think I actually talked about this on a podcast at the time, into what became the Mighty Nine season 2, and there was a lot of people there who didn't really like the change that much, and they, there was some resistance to it. Some people took to it, like ducks to water, but other people sort of struggled to get into it, or it took them a while. And we're kind of seeing that repeat itself again, I suspect, with season 3. I think one of the sort of the main perks of Critical Role is the audience becomes so invested in the characters, because you spend, they do like 100+ episodes of this, and every one of them is like 3 to 4 hours. So you're getting like between 300 to 400 hours of investment in characters, which is like watching, 100 James Bond films. It's ridiculous, like how invested you would be at the end of all that. So, and that's great for Critical Role, because it draws the fans in. They become really invested in not just the characters, but the storyline and the game and the players and the community, and it's a very engrossing thing. But then when that ends and something new starts, people get thrown off.
Right, yeah.
Because you're fundamentally starting something fresh. And we're seeing that with some of the reactions again. But on the flip side, like, a lot of the community have responded really positively to it. One thing I did find interesting is they actually did, for the first episode, they had it streamed in some cinemas in the US, which is...
Oh, no way!
That's pretty big,
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool. I would have loved to have gone to like a cinema showing. Like it plays at like 3-4 in the morning here effectively, so it's just not viable. Yeah. But I would love to have watched a first episode live in the cinema. That must have been pretty cool. So yeah, that's kind of the big D&D news that's been kind of either going or coming up over this next couple of weeks, and it kind of segues into some of the things we're probably going to talk about, which is what we've been doing in games. So I suppose we'll start with you, since I've talked for a while, because you played D&D a week back on Tuesday.
Yeah, I was in Dave Wright's D&D campaign. So we're still playing through we are playing through Avernus Rising. We've come to an unusual scenario. We've been tasked with snatching this. It's the skull of an angel. But it's the skull is like the angel had a hound's head, so it's like a hound-shaped skull.
It's a hound.com.
Sorry?
I know what you're talking about. The creature that it refers to, it's called a hound.com.
There we go. Nice, thank you.
No worries.
And to get this has been this is currently owned by this archdemon who throws fancy pants parties every now and then. So it's the old trope that you find in like most campaigns. At some point, you've got to go to the fancy ball and mingle with the guests and try and do that. So as you can imagine, my barbarian, my half-orc barbarian, excelled at that. So
really in your wheelhouse there.
Oh yeah. In all honesty, what's been going on is we've been doing a bit of investigation around the with the other guests.
Okay.
We've the skull is on display and has like 1 million like magical traps on it.
Yeah.
We've managed to. There's a male sphinx, which I didn't even realise that male sphinx and female sphinxes were called different things.
Okay.
Tom opens Google to to look this up. He's bored at this party, so he's agreed to help us. Just I don't know for the fun of it. Meanwhile, there's a lady Minotaur there whose ex is a devil that is guarding this thing. So I've been there chatting with her to get this guy wound up so that he leaves his posts to come have a fight with me.
Right, okay.
And
Are you not unarmed at the moment, though?
I'm unarmed at the moment, yes. Yes, I know. We're getting... No, we're getting... Well, here's the plan, right?
Okay. Tell me the plan.
Our wizard, John's character, whose character name... Yakovin, there we go. It came to me eventually. Yakovin can summon item I think I can't mind the exact name of the spell, but he can basically cast a spell to summon an item.
Okay.
So we've put all of our gear in a handy haversack. So that's how we're getting all of our equipment into this party.
Okay.
The downside is, as we left the session, I'm already outside having a fist fight with this devil. So, Karkham, Simon's character's just grabbed my axe and is running outside with it so that I can grab that. Because I forgot that devils only have damage resistance, so like they don't take an awful lot of damage unless it's magical. So my fists are doing nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, fists don't do a lot of damage anyway, either in 5th edition, which isn't great.
Unless you're a monk.
Yeah, obviously, monks are a special case. Interestingly, a male sphinx is called an androsphinx.
An androsphinx, there we go.
There you go. I did actually know the name, but I thought I'm going to Google it because I don't want to be stupid and say the wrong thing.
Yeah.
No, because it's a monster in D&D. And it's in Pathfinder as well. So it is something that I've both come across and run before. That's cool though. That's really good. How are you finding Descent into Avernus as a module?
I really enjoy it. It is very different from the types of campaign that we typically play. I would say it's a lot lighter on role playing. Or certainly this is how it's panned out anyway. There's role playing opportunities there, and we do it, but it's a lot more combat.
Yeah.
Or it seems to me a lot more combat focused. Again, I don't know if that is the general consensus, or
it's not just Descent into Avernus. To be honest, you will typically find with the majority, not all of them, but with the majority of D&D modules from all editions, really, they tend to have combat is the main focus because D&D is a system built around its combat.
Yeah.
Like that is, that's what the system was originally designed to do, was just combat. Role-playing came in later, and only as editions have kind of come out has role-playing become more and more of a focus.
Yeah.
And what I tend to find, I have a few of the D&D modules, and there is, they always come with maps. There's always, a degree of dungeon crawling, and that doesn't necessarily mean you're in a dungeon. The dungeon can be a forest or mountainside or things like that. You're basically just copy-pasting a different type of environment in.
Yeah.
That's doing it a disservice, but it fundamentally is the same. The role-playing tends to come from... There's two ways you can get role-playing. There's what you can make from the situation. So that can be either your inter-party role-playing or, just spending a lot of time with the one NPC in the dungeon who will talk to you. Or maybe even trying to have role-playing sessions with villains that you've captured or defeated or whatever. And then you tend to have you either have your between session stuff, like your downtime, or you'll have your investigation things and things like that. My general experience of 5th edition modules is that they are probably, I would say, between 60 to 80% combat.
Yeah. And
then whatever's left is your investigation and your roleplay. The other thing is as well that combat takes so much longer than roleplay does inherently.
Yes.
Because, having a conversation back and forth, even if it's really in-depth, a lot of storytelling, a lot of role-playing, you'll chew through so much more actual content in a shorter space of time. Whereas when you get into combat, especially as you start to kind of climb in levels, your combats take longer and longer and longer. Which will touch on one of the games I'm going to talk about in a minute, where your combats do really kind of bite into your game time. 5th edition's better for that, because the combat is simpler, but at high levels you still start to notice that creep in turn time.
Yeah. I'm going to say this as well, and just to be clear, I'm not saying this as a criticism.
No.
In fact, I am quite enjoying it because it is different from the games we normally play. It's quite nice to just relax and just chuck some dice and smash some skulls in.
Yeah.
So
no, I agree. I think too many people refer to dungeon crawlers in a derivative fashion. There is nothing wrong with a dungeon crawler. There is nothing wrong with a combat heavy session. I think I talked about on last episode how we had a game of Warhammer that was entirely one combat. there's nothing wrong with a combat session. If everybody's comfortable with that kind of style and that's what people are expecting, that's fine. You know, you can have great fun. And for you personally, playing a barbarian, you're in your element.
Oh yes.
and as I said, 5th edition is a system that is based on its combat. So of course it's going to be one of the best things about it in how it runs. And that's not to say you can't spice your combat up, you know, with descriptive text, you know, with cool moments, with, you know, good set pieces and things like that, which I know from... I have seen parts of Avernus being run on various streams and things, and I've read bits of it myself, and I know it has some fantastic set pieces in it, which is one of its strengths, and it's such a unique location because you're in hell, fundamentally. For the duration of the module. So that's really cool. So no, I'm glad you're having a good time with it. That's really good.
Yeah, and you know, everyone's been enjoying it as well. We haven't had any detractors in the party.
Yeah,
I mean, apart from John and Simon Harper being brothers do bicker, but that's just amusing more than anything else.
That takes me back to like my first role-playing group, because we played. We used to play with a couple of friends of mine who lived around the corner from my parents at the time, Matt and Paul, and they were brothers, and they would bicker a lot, like not just in games, but
just in general,
in games as well. And I don't really have any siblings that I run for anymore, so I don't have that experience. I do run for a married couple. That's always an experience, but luckily they're quite easy to manage. So I suppose we'll talk about the weekend, because I think you had some stuff on at the weekend as well.
Yeah, so the other gaming that I've been up to is we had a big Commander night, Magic the Gathering Commander night on Saturday. And my pal Dan Mason, who does streaming on Twitch as well. I believe he's popped in on our Twitch stream.
Yes.
To check us out. But so there was 5 of us in total, and we managed to get 3 games in. I was playing a different deck each game as well. Okay. So and Dan won all 3 games. So. I was playing... one of the decks I've been playing is the new blue-black zombie deck, that the pre-constructed deck that they've come out with. And I want it to be good. I want to like the deck, but it's just not quite there, unfortunately.
That's a shame.
I will, at some point, probably try and tinker with it and upgrade it a bit, but yeah, I enjoy it though. It's fun making loads of zombies and sacrificing them all over and over again. The second game I was playing my Sithis Enchantress deck, which is green-white enchantments matter. And I got off to a really good start, which immediately painted a massive target on me. And that's the problem with Commander. If you pull too far ahead, everyone else at the table just goes, right, something needs to be done about this guy.
I think Commander is, and this is my experience of it, is 50% Magic the Gathering and 50% poker.
Yes.
Because it's about not giving away your strengths too early on, and you don't want people... Like, the 2 positions you don't want to be in, really, it's a bit like Mario Kart as well. You don't want to be right at the front, and you don't want to be right at the back.
Yeah.
You want to be like in the middle.
Just in the pack.
If you're at the front, you become a target, and if you're at the back, you become a target, because they can either get rid of you quick, or they need to bring you down a peg, depending. Whereas if you stay in the middle, you can tend to kind of blend into the herd a little bit and not suffer too much. And I've been in that exact same situation where I've started out too strong, and then it's just wham wham wham, and you're like gone. Yeah. You're down. You're pushed from front to back, and then you're in as bad a position as you were in 5 minutes ago.
Exactly. But it's good though, because it keeps everyone in check, and it means, usually it means everyone is having a fun game.
I always find Commander goes a little bit like Resistance as well, Like you've kind of got that thing where you're trying to feel people out, and you're like, has he got a board clearer? Like, what's his strategy? Like, especially if you don't play that often, or you don't play people's decks that much, or you just don't know that much about Magic. You don't really know like what tactics people are going to take. So you might see someone doing something, and you'll be like, especially for me, I'll be like, what are they building towards? Like, is there a weird end game here? Or...
Yeah, well, it's funny you should say that, because one thing that we do, I mean, we know each other's decks more or less by now anyway, but a common thing to do is what's called turn zero, and that's basically where you sit down and you actually have a conversation and just say, right, okay, these are the decks that I've got available to me. What kind of game are we wanting? Do we want like super powerful decks just smashing into each other? Are we going for something a bit more like fluffy and a bit more dirtly or whatever? And I would normally say, okay, this is my commander. This is what the deck is trying to do. This is how it wins, and maybe some other pertinent details. Like with my more powerful decks, I'd be like, okay, this is pretty well tuned. It's got a lot of tutors in. It's got some infinite combos in there that I'm trying to assemble, basically. So that's what this deck is trying to do, so that everyone is on the same page going into that game, and there's no like nasty surprises for anyone.
I think you've actually done that with me in just like normal games as well,
Yeah.
where you've kind of gone, these are my decks, these are what they're about, which is, I think that's really good practice in general for playing people. And I don't really need to do it, because I just go, oh, my decks are shit and fluffy. Which really saves me on that conversation.
You can have fluffy decks that are quite powerful though, because the final deck I played was Krenko Goblin Mob Boss, which is for those not familiar with Magic the Gathering, he just spits out loads of goblins. He creates loads of goblins every turn. So and basically that deck is. I kind of just looked at all of my cards, my card collection, and just went, okay, let's get all the goblins out. Let's pile them in this deck. Let's put some other things in here to make it good as well. And that's a pretty explosive deck. But I played it badly. I made a mistake, and Dan in that game was playing thematically. He was playing his elf deck, and the elves came out on top that time. But
no,
yeah,
I do agree. You can do like thematically strong lists. Like, I mean, my human Innistrad deck is horrible, because it ramps so quickly. Once you start to get humans out, get tokens out, and get counters on them, it just gets really unmanageable very, very fast. And it can pretty much, once it's set up, it can just swing and kill in one turn.
Yeah.
Because I can stop you getting any blockers as well, which is just, it can be nasty. So I know what you mean, like you can do thematic decks, but I do think typically for like your infinite combos or your really nasty decks, thematics tends to take more of a backseat in those kind of
decks. Yeah, that's if I'm building like a tuned deck, I am not concerned at all about the theme. Although like I did have a deck. There's a card called Campbell, Consul's Advisor or something like. I can't quite mind his exact name, but he's basically like he's an advisor type character in the universe, right? He's quite sinister as well, a bit shady. So I just kind of thought it'd be fun to call the deck Campbell Fun Police, and just the deck is it's what's commonly called a stacks deck in Magic the Gathering, which is basically playing a load of cards that stops people from doing things.
Oh, I hate those decks.
Yeah, and do you know what, right? I built that deck in response to... when I lived in Glasgow, I used to play Commander with some of the guys from Geek Retreat over webcam. But when lockdown eased and I was living in the south side of Glasgow, there was a bunch of guys who would meet up in the Granary, one of the pubs, on a Monday night to play Commander. And they were very competitive with their deck construction. So this was my sort of, okay, I'm in this arms race now. So
I guess I'm part of this.
Yeah. So it was great fun to play because, again, but it's all about like being on the level, right? You understanding what everyone's trying to do and trying to pitch yourselves at sort of equal footing.
Yeah, no, I get you. So I had, on the subject of card games, I had Will up visiting this weekend.
Yeah.
Which was really nice. He came over.
And you didn't play Warhammer.
We didn't play Warhammer. So Will has, I don't think he'll mind me saying this, he's been at a lot of events. So he's been on holiday for a bit, and he's been attending a few events as part of his holiday. So he went to an Age of Sigmar weekend at Warhammer World. Like his first one back. He went down there and he spent a weekend down there with some of his friends and stuff, and did an event down there, and then he came back, and then at the start of this weekend, before he came to see me, he'd gone to a one-day 40k doubles tournament as well. So when he came over, I said, right, what do you want to do? And he said, I don't mind, I just don't want to do anything that involves miniatures, because I've done a lot of miniatures gaming and painting and stuff. And I was like, that's fine, like, that's no problem at all. So we sat down yesterday and we played some Marvel Champions. I actually got to bust out some Marvel Champions and play it with someone, which was a treat. But Will's never played it before, so I kind of sat down and I said, what do you want to play? Here's like all the heroes that you've got. And he was like, oh, I want to play Rocket Raccoon. So I was like, cool, gave him Rocket Raccoon.
Good choice.
And I was like, I'll take Star-Lord because it's thematic at least. I could have taken Groot, but I don't really know how the Groot deck works, and I wasn't willing to go down that rabbit hole just yet. And I was like, right, we'll play against the first villain deck from the core box, because you've never played against. So it's Rhino doing a bank heist, which I think you've actually played.
Yeah, I remember this, yes.
So I was like, this is nice and easy, no problems at all. We got smashed.
Really?
Like, really smashed. Like these are the Rocket and Star-Lord decks are two new decks. They're considered to be quite good, and we just could not deal with Rhino. It was funny, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And we lasted a long time, but we just couldn't bring it home.
I mean, let's face it, like fluff-wise, Rhino's a bit of a rubbish villain.
I mean, he's just a big, strong, dumb guy. He just charges at people.
Yeah, that's really it. Strong. Right, I've met that guy.
Yeah, like, he's really naff in that sense. I like him as a villain, but he's just decided, I'm gonna wear a Rhino costume complete with a massive horn on my forehead. Yeah,
this will make people fear me.
Yeah, why not go animal themed with your villain persona? But what we found we struggled with was Will was putting out quite a bit of damage, and I had some interesting things I could do, because Rocket has loads of guns and stuff and explosives, and Star-Lord has a really weird mechanic which I like it. It's really thematic for Star-Lord, where he basically he gets benefits for taking more risks and doing slightly stupid stuff. So what you can do is you can basically put more penalties on yourself potentially, but get more benefits from it. So I was trying to figure out how to balance this with dealing with Rhino. But what I think where we went wrong was the two characters we chose were both quite low health wise, and Rhino hits hard. Yeah. So we were always kind of if he hit us, we'd have to spend a turn recovering from it, and then we got him to his second stage, and then it just went real wrong real fast. Because he was just swinging at us for so much damage. We had a couple of side schemes come out, and they were all popping off, and we were just like, yeah, this has got out of control, real bad. So I got knocked out, and then Will just stood Will knew he was going to lose on the next turn because he couldn't stop Rhino hitting the win condition, but he was like, I'll just hit him for a load of damage for fun. So he just had Rocket standing there gunning him down as he's running away with all the money, which was fun. So that was really good. So we got to have a nice game of that, and Will wants to play some more of that the next time he's up.
Hey,
so
there we go.
That's good fun.
So he wasn't deterred.
No, not at all, because it was a fun game. We were going to play again today, but we got distracted watching stuff on Netflix and YouTube that old chestnut,
that old 2-punch combo, destroying any productivity
that'll get you night.
yeah.
And the only other thing I had was on Saturday, also with Will, but this was online. We carried on our Saturday night campaign, so we did 5 Treasure Company.
Yeah, the Pathfinder campaign.
Yeah, so
we haven't checked in on that for a while. So how is that going?
So this is one that started in lockdown as a weekly online game, just for something to do on a Saturday night, because obviously people couldn't go out and things. And it's just all modules that I've been running, and they've now hit level 11, which is quite scary to think they've got that high already. But yeah, they've hit level 11. They're currently doing a storyline. So the last one, I think I had mentioned this on the podcast, they were stopping basically a living mountain attacking a dwarven city.
Oh wow!
Had kind of a kaiju attack.
Yeah, nice.
From one of the modules from Paizo. And then in this one, they were going to seek out this giant wizard to get some information about how to unlock this powerful book. When they got there, his floating castle, so he's got a castle that kind of like floats in the clouds and has this like brass walkway that leads up to it.
Very, very wizardy.
Very wizardy. So they were like getting up into his castle, and that was under siege by giants. But it had a really cool, the sort of final fight of that section is you go into like the grand hall, and there's like a statue in the center of the hall that the wizard's on top of, like shooting magic down at all these giants that are attacking him. And then there's a giant riding a Triceratops in the room.
Yes!
So they have like this Triceratops is like stomping all over them, and they're fighting down the giants and that. There's been a bit of a running, I don't want to say it's a joke, because I don't find it funny, but it is true.
Do other people find it funny?
To a degree. So
that does technically make it a joke.
There's been a running motif, if you will,
right,
that I am rolling really badly at the moment in this game. Okay. So my villains just cannot...
Don't you always roll really badly?
Like, I roll badly in general, but I will get like the odd 20 or the odd like decent roll that kind of... The thing is, like, as a GM, most GMs don't want to kill the players. So my rolls actually work in a game's advantage sometimes, because I will, by default, my game will pull punches for me because my rolls suck ass, right? Which is nice.
Through no conscious effort of your own.
It's just I have the worst luck with dice for whatever reason.
Yeah.
It's just been a fate I've suffered for a very long time. But in this game at the moment, I just cannot land a blow. Like, it's just everything I do fails. And it is quite frustrating. And like, it got to the point at one point where I actually landed a blow on one of the players, and about 3 of us cheered. We're like, yes, I've hit. And I was like, we're so happy for you, Tom.
the bad guy's done something. Yeah.
So I actually landed a blow. But what's funny about it is, so they beat the giants and they kill the giants, and then there's just like the Triceratops stomping around, and one of them goes, I think we should knock it unconscious. And I'm like, why are they knocking it unconscious? So they like knock it unconscious, and then one of them goes, I think we should adopt it. And I'm like, oh no.
Who said that?
Oh no. I think it was Barry or Will
that
said it. So now I've got a party that are domesticating a Triceratops.
How? Yeah, that's got to be tricky.
Yeah, so basically they have, in their party, they have a cavalier. And cavaliers have mounts, which means they need to have both a good ride score and a good animal handling score.
Right, okay.
They have 2 things that go in their benefits. The cavalier is very good at animal handling, and the bard, which is Will's character, Will has never really played a Pathfinder campaign before. And we were talking, when we made his character, I said, what do you want to play? He said, I want to play like a support character that I can just kind of like do stuff to help the team. So we made this really helpful halfling bard with the bagpipes. And he loves the character, and he's played him for 11 levels now. But one thing that he took very early in, I said, right, here's the inventory, here's your money, go and buy what you want. And I came back, and he'd bought like some basic armor, a sword, a donkey, and a chicken. And I was like, why'd you have a donkey and a chicken?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, the donkey carries my stuff, fair enough, and the chicken's my friend.
The chicken's his friend.
And I was like, right, okay. You can't have a chicken friend unless you take animal handling because you would.
So he has it as well.
So he has animal handling, and because he wanted to play a supporting halfling, there's a halfling trait called helpful. That means if you make an aid another check, rather than adding +2, you add +4.
Oh,
so
nice!
These two halflings together are an animal handling machine. And I'm like, right, okay.
Oh, they're gonna have that Triceratops doing sits, doing fetch, playing dead.
I said, look, you can. They're on a mission at the moment, so they're going to basically track down these giants that attacked this wizard's castle. And I said, right, you can't just leave the Triceratops here. I said, it's a wild Triceratops. If you leave it here, it's gonna go buck wild and smash the place up. And they said, can we take it with us and domesticate it? And I said, well, the animal handling rules actually require you to, like, spend time, with the creature and stuff. I said, and you're going to be traveling. So, and I basically chucked loads of penalties at them. I was like, if you take it, you're going to be fatigued all the while you've got it with you because you're going to be busy, like, dealing with it all the time. You'll be moving slower. You'll be doing this. You'll be doing this. It's going to be this DC check. And they were like, okay. We'll take it
and they've just done it.
And I was like, okay, give me the check. And they smashed the check. And I was like, cool. I've done everything by the book. I set the rules, and you met all my expectations. So that is yours. You have a Triceratops.
I mean, they've earned it.
Yeah,
they have frankly earned it.
So I now have 3 halflings with a Triceratops.
So is the Cavalier now riding the Triceratops?
No, because he is very much linked in with his mount. He has a dog as his mount, and he's the Order of the Paw, so they're all about like their connection to the dogs and things. So no, the Triceratops is really just a team mascot at this point. A
flex, if you will, on the GM.
Pretty much. It's look what we can do, and I just have to go.
Yeah, you did that.
It is a beast as well.
They could make what do they call it when you have like a little platform on top of it?
Like a palanquin, is it?
Palanquin, make a palanquin. They could ride in on that.
I mean,
that'd be awesome.
It's definitely an option. It's completely.
If any of you guys are listening, you're welcome.
Please don't.
Yeah. Please do.
But like they're talking about getting this Triceratops back to their home country because they're like hundreds of miles to the north, and they sailed part of the way here. And Ewan, who's been on the show, said to me, "Could I get the Triceratops onto my boat when we go back?" And I was like, "I can't see how you could feasibly get a Triceratops to get onto a boat." And have the boat support it, and have it, a creature that's never been on open waters, cope with that. That's going to be very, very challenging. And I try not to say no. I was like, it's going to be very, very, very challenging if you do that. And Barry just turned around and he's like, well, I have teleport now.
Like, yes, the smart-ass wizard.
And I was like, well... That's fair enough, but a Triceratops is a huge creature, so you can't teleport it unless you can teleport 4 people with you.
Okay.
Which you need to be level 12 for, and you're only level 11. But Barry got an item really early in the campaign that makes him count as caster level 1 higher. So, looks like they're going to be teleporting a Triceratops at some point.
Amazing. I love it.
It's all come together. Real good fun.
Beautiful. You love to see it. Pet Triceratops.
It's cool. Like it's really fun. Like these are the kinds of things as a GM you just don't anticipate them. And my degree of experience, I feel it's kind of on me for not seeing this coming. But it's good fun. I'm really enjoying it. It's very silly. It was always meant to be kind of a slightly goofier campaign, although it has had some really dark moments. But yeah, it's been really, really good. So yeah, that's kind of my update.
Yeah, awesome. I think with that, we are just about out of time. So we'll bring this episode to a close. As always, thank you very much for listening. And until next time, take care. Bye. Bye.